And so here we go on a Sunday morning, day 5 of the 5th month. It's May 5th, 2019. Good morning to you, my dear friends, and thank you very much for joining us for today's edition of Sundays with George Grant. I'm he, and boy, are we ever happy to see you this morning. Kind of cloudy here in the Spice this morning. No rain, no rain. I don't think we even had any rain last night, but the dry season lingers on, and you know what's coming next month, eh? Huh? Yeah. Hopefully, it's going to be a so-so season. I haven't heard a lot of talk about the season. Earlier on, there was a report that it's not going to be as aggressive a season as we've had in recent times, but you never know. You just never know. Pilgrims, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's start here by taking a look at the rundown for this morning's edition of SWGG. As always, we begin with the buzz. We have a reading for you from the Holy Scriptures, and yes, she's with us this morning. Little Angel. We'll be hearing from her this morning. And then we're going to jump right into the editorials. 2 for you today. The Grenada Advocate, which is captioned, A Region Divided. Yeah? And then the New Today. Ooh, they tell us about the secret deal. You're not going to have to wait much longer to find out what that's about. So hang in there. Now, busy morning for you today. We're going to begin with an interview, which I've captioned here, A Call for Better Service for the Disabled. Told you about a lady last week, I think it was, told you about a lady by the name of Sherdine Thomas, who's the young mother of 2 disabled children. She's having a hell of a time, and she's taken to social media to talk about the plight of people with disabilities in this country. She's going to be in this morning, and joining her is going to be, probably one of the most vocal advocates I know of for the disabled and a lot of other things. Citizen John Rullow is going to be joining Sherdine this morning. I've asked them both to be here at about 9:30 so we can have a 9:45 start, and we'll see how that goes. As far as features are concerned, you'll be hearing the May Day address by Labor Minister Peter David. That was on Wednesday of this past week. And then the May Day address by the head of the labor movement here in Grenada, Andre Lewis, who happens to be the president of the Grenada Trades Union Council. Now, got to tell you right off the bat, I only have about 20 minutes of the address by Andre Lewis. I did try to grab his entire address off a website, but I only got about 20 minutes of it. Goodness knows why. I don't know. But in those 20 minutes, he had an awful lot to say. So you're going to hear from the minister, Peter David, and also from the president of the Grenada Trades Union Council, Andre Lewis. All right? Well, that's our first feature, or I should say one of 2 features, because we're not necessarily going to play them in that order. Feature number 2 is captioned, The Let's Help Grenada project. You might remember a few weeks ago we had a gentleman by the name of Johncrow Alexander joining us from New York. And we did promise at that time that we would have him back because this gentleman had so much to say. Well, he's going to be joining us again this morning, hopefully at about 10:30. Okay? Maybe a little bit before that, maybe a little bit after, depending on how the interview with Sherdine, and John goes. All right. There's also another little piece that I'm hoping to be able to squeeze in. I didn't put it up on the website because I was uncertain as to whether or not we would actually have time to get that in this morning. It's a 20-minute piece, which we did this past Thursday. You know, every Thursday morning, Alan Baczynski joins us, and we deal with very serious issues, but we also make sure that we have a bundle of laughs. And this past Thursday, was absolutely no exception. So, assuming that we got time, we're going to sneak that little piece in with Alan this morning. Now, quick look here. Let me see here. Turn to social media. Ryan Jabon saying good morning. So is Anthea Rullow. And she's saying, so good to be able to join you today, Anthea. It is a delight seeing you. Hope you can make it through the whole program. Don't have to run off on errands and stuff like that. Ryan says it's also cloudy out there in Florida. Yeah. And Margaret, hey Max. Max is saying good morning from a cloudy and rainy New York City. It's a comfort food kind of day. She had to mention food. Mags. Thank you so much. Yesterday I went to town on a recipe that was provided to me by Margaret. Yeah. Oh boy. Yes, Mags. Super stuff. Keep them coming. Ashton Fletcher is saying good morning from Louisville, Kentucky. He says the Derby is over with a controversy as to the real winner. You know, I used to follow the Kentucky Derby an awful lot, but I haven't in recent years because I worked in the thoroughbred racing industry for a number of years. Chester Simon saying good morning from Switzerland. Hello there, Deborah Parker. Stratus Robinson. Girl. A lot of names. She's saying, good, beautiful morning, George. And Bernard Gilbert's with us as well. Jackie O saying good morning from a rainy one. Hey, it's raining all over the world this morning. She says it's rainy Washington, D.C. Thankful to God for the rain, washing away the pollen. Yeah, I know you guys have a tough time in spring with that. A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people. And John is saying, good morning, Gigi. Gotta go watch Carriacou under 19 play the St. David's under 19 cricket final. So mark me down as present, but absent. We'll listen later. Nice of you to check in anyway, John. And Lydia James is saying, good morning from a sunny Canada. Have a blessed day, everyone. Nice to see you, folks. Thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday morning. Let's see here now. It's 9:09, 9 minutes after the hour. Take our first little break, and we'll come on back.
Are you equipped to take a closer look behind the numbers? The Caribbean Institute of Forensic Accounting can help you build your professional skills to audit and investigate fraud, waste, and abuse. Through the Forensic Certified Public Accountants FCPA program, you gain qualification to conduct forensic audits and investigations globally. Earn international recognition and designation as a Forensic Certified Public Accountant from the Forensic CPA Society of the USA. Certificate courses run May to November 2019 in Grenada at the Grenada National Stadium. To register, contact us at info@cfa-edu.com or 868-224-3478.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing.
A commemorative postage stamp.
So it's good to know I have Quad Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Boy, you, they gonna fly with kite now. The wind picking up.
I'm coming. Karim, what are you doing?
Fly my kite.
Yeah, but not here. You can't fly kite near power lines, boy.
Why not? The wind good.
Because mommy say kite threads conduct electricity.
Yeah, kite. He's right. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, you can cause power outages, or even worse, you can get shocked.
Come, let's go and fly them in the pasture.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kite threads conduct electricity. Do not fly kites near overhead power lines. This can lead to electric shocks and power outages. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, do not try to retrieve it. Release it and call GRENADAB. Always fly kites in open areas. Keep your kites far away from roads. And remember, always clean up after yourself.
GRENADAB, energizing our Grenada.
Once again, pilgrims, a very, very good morning. Quick glance over here at Rumble Chat. By the way, folks, today is the last day that you're going to be able to post on Rumble Chat. We're going to replace that with a new forum later on today, okay? So please be guided accordingly. It's going to be real simple. Just put your name and your email address. Bang. You're on, okay? And thank you very much to Ramble Chat for their presence here over the past few months. And Ryan says here on Rumble Chat, great loss to Grenada and the Caribbean on the passing of Sir M. Alistair McIntyre. Rest in peace. Jabon, you just finding that out? Yeah, a good friend. Left us just close to 2 weeks now. Yeah? So, folks, let's get right down into this week's edition of The Buzz. We begin with an opening scripture, and I quote, "But you are not to be called rabbi, for you have one teacher, and you are all brothers. And do not call anyone on earth Father, for you have one Father, and he is in heaven. Nor are you to be called instructors, for you have one instructor, the Messiah. The greatest among you will be your servant. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites." Huh? Yeah, hang on a sec here for just a sec. Hang on a sec. Okay, yeah, got a little bleep there. Yeah. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees. You travel over land and sea to win a single convert. And when you have succeeded, you make them twice as much a child of hell as you are. Yeah. That reading, my dear friends, came to you from the book of Matthew. Matthew 23, verses 8 to 15. Okay? Here's what a little angel has to say to us on this Sunday morning, May 5th. She says, Grenada may not have had the funding and expertise in order to capitalize on whatever oil and gas reserves that may have been at its disposal. But that did not give the government of the day any right to jeopardize a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to keep details of any agreement secret. It is generally accepted that there is certain information which government will be expected to keep private, but such a privilege should not be used unnecessarily or as a means of covering up any wrongdoing. When it comes to a nation's business, a lack of transparency could indicate the existence of unpopular choices, corrupted practices, fraud, and not to mention the undermining of a democracy. To date, despite the discussion, the government of Grenada has chosen to remain silent on the details relating to the country's oil and gas deposits. The only people who seem to understand that this should not be a secret are the people who are entitled to the details, and not those who are required to share them. Currently, there is insufficient information in the public domain to conclude whether Grenada's oil and gas deal is in total shambles or may lead into a direction that will result in economic benefits for the inhabitants of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Judging from the experiences of the people who live in Venezuela and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Judging from the experiences of the people who live in Venezuela and the Democratic Republic of the people of the Congo, Grenadians should continue to pay very close attention. Despite the fact that Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, for years, a large percentage of its population experienced economic hardships, poverty, and in more recent times, an ongoing, insurmountable crisis. A similar story surrounds the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Its people are categorized as the poorest in the world, even though the country is abundantly rich in a number of natural resources. Corruption is rife in Venezuela. It is also rife in the Congo. And if it is not yet rife in Grenada, it will soon be, with oil and gas on the horizon. Corruption is one of the leading causes of all that has gone wrong, is going wrong, and will go wrong in Venezuela, the People's Republic of the Congo, and to a lesser extent, Grenada. Corruption has plagued those and other nations for years, and to an extent that today, taking care of other people's business is not an option and virtually does not exist. Little Angel, thank you very much. Pilgrims, let's see here. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, Kipling's checking in, and so is Oswin Lewis and Claire Antoine from Birmingham in the UK, across the pond. Anthony Howard is saying good morning from Westfield, New Jersey. Richard St. Bernard is also chiming in this morning. Bob Marishow, perfect reception. Thank you, Bob. Hope it keeps that way. And Fitzroy Adams out there in the Big Apple. Lincoln Roberts says, good day, everyone. It's a beautiful sunny day in Wellington, Florida. Well, I'm glad somebody's having some sunshine, Linky. Preparing my sea and egg bakes. My sea egg. Oh, my sea egg and bake. You got sea egg? Imported from Grenada, I hope. Hey, share some with us, man. That's what he's having for Sunday breakfast. And of course, as always, he's sending much love to everyone. Peter Bishop's checking in from a rainy Long Island. Dennis Perkins saying good morning. It's dull and chilly here in London. Chilly on the 5th of May, Dennis. Keep your chin up, my friend. Things are going to get better. Probably have a fabulous summer, I hope. Ernesto Jose saying good morning, Principal G and Pilgrims. Welcome to Education Sunday. What is going on at home with all these vehicular accidents? Maybe we should be using bicycles more than ever. And he's calling on everybody to share the program. And by the way, John's taken off. John says, Igon. Charles Normer says, never a dull moment in Spice Isle, Grenada. And Janice Jones Bagwan is saying, good day. Well, good day to you too, Janice. Pilgrims, let's see here. Take another quick little break. And we'll come back and get started with our editorials.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Boy, yo, they gonna fly with kite now. The wind picking up.
I'm coming. Karim, what you doing?
Fly my kite.
Yeah, but not here. You can't fly kite near power lines, boy.
Why not? The wind good.
Because mommy say kite threads conduct electricity.
Yeah, kite. He's right. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, you can cause power outages, or even worse, you can get shocked.
Come, let's go and fly them in the pasture.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kite threads conduct electricity. Do not fly kites near overhead power lines. This can lead to electric shocks and power outages. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, do not try to retrieve it. Release it and call GRENADABROADCAST. Always fly kites in open areas. Keep your kites far away from roads. And remember, always clean up after yourself.
GRENADABROADCAST, energizing our Grenada.
My name is Jennifer James, and I've been making confectionaries for the past 7 years. Growing up as a little girl, I always wanted to make these little things. Fudge, sugar cake, tamarind ball, these little things. I read something actually, and it said that tamarind itself is very good because it eliminates fat from the liver. You get the mature tamarind and you crack it, you shell it out. I would add a little baking soda, some spices. I would leave it to rest probably for about 2 hours and then add my sugar and just start kneading. I usually knead it hard enough so that I can roll it. When I finish roll it, I will paste it with the actual white or brown sugar and you have a nice tamarind ball. I have been providing food fair with tamarind ball about 6 years now. I started producing tamarind ball to sell for the school children. I thought I could advance somewhere. So I went to food fair and I asked one of the salespersons there if they would be interested in selling my tamarind ball. And she told me yes. She told me to bring 20 packets to start with. It was really a joy for me because I wanted to extend on my little business. My name is Jennifer James and I work with the food fair to provide you with tamarind balls.
Alrighty, it's now, let's see, coming up on 26 minutes after the hour. A few more folks have chimed in here. And by the way, Dennis Perkins says, yes, I meant blinking cold. I get the message, Dennis. It's blinking cold. Okay, well, you know, Carriacou still beckons. I mean, hop on British Airways or Condor or whoever. Come on down. Cheryl Kalista saying, good morning. Hi there, Cheryl. Good to see you. And Devani Leo says, good morning, class and principal. Rainy in Brooklyn, but it's another day on planet Earth to give God thanks for and to be informed. We're doing our best, Dennis. We're trying. Grenada Sunshine is saying, happy Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo to you, too. Grenada Sunshine. And Glenn Andrew Mark is saying happy Sunday to all. And yeah, I think that's it there for the time being. Pilgrims, let's get into our editorials. We begin with the Grenada Advocate, which is captioned, A Region Divided. It was not that long ago. Indeed, it was just after the occasion of a number of selected regional leaders meeting with the incumbent U.S. President, Mr. Donald Trump, and other members of his administration at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach, Florida, that we interpreted this message as a scarcely concealed attempt to divide the region on its declared position on the optimal resolution of the ongoing Venezuelan crisis, a position that differs substantially from that of the Trump administration, which appears to be hell-bent on regime change. And while we did retain some degree of comfort from the assurance by Mr. Alan Chastanet, the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, of his continuing respect for CARICOM's position, the recently reported account of the regional voting patterns at an Organization of American States meeting on whether to accept the nomination of a candidate supported by Senor Juan Guaido as permanent representative of that organization bears cogent testimony of the existence of a schism within the grouping. It is by now notorious that the U.S. administration supports Guaido for the leadership of Venezuela over Maduro, currently the disputed de jure president. It is equally notorious that the region's stance favors neither of these contenders over the other, preferring to maintain a stance of neutrality that would optimize a solution reached after structured dialogue between the two factions. Nevertheless, at least 4 member states of CARICOM found it possible to support the nomination of the Guaido candidate, unsurprisingly, a number of whom were at the earlier Mar-a-Lago meeting. The St. Lucian Foreign Affairs Minister, Ms. Sarah Flood Boburn, subsequently defended the affirmative vote of her jurisdiction on the basis that the National Assembly, headed by Guaido, is the, quote, only democratic institution presently in Venezuela, unquote, and that it is concerned that the Maduro regime continues to stifle democracy. Notably, some of her language appeared scarcely supportive of the CARICOM declared stance of neutrality. According to her, we should not be quiet to unconstitutional efforts to maintain an illegitimate grip on power, despite the loud clamoring of a country's people and the international community for new and open elections, unquote. St. Lucia was joined in its affirmation of the Guaido candidate by Haiti, Jamaica, and the Bahamas, while Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Suriname voted against. In the region, the foreign relations of the nation are rarely, if ever, a matter for public discourse. It is as if the people have uncritically ceded this important aspect of our governance to the executive. Hence, there is never public discussion of our voting patterns in international bodies, or of the treaties to which we might become signatory. This is a pity. It might be of interest, for what it's worth, to note that Barbados, together with Guyana, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Trinidad and Tobago, found it prudent to abstain on the vote. We are not at all clear as to what this abstention signifies. That, Pilgrim, is the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition, this past Wednesday, of the Grenada Advocate. Just a wee bit, we're going to find out what the secret deal, the new today, is talking about. But first, let me spin back here for just a minute, see who else has joined us. Ernesto says, great piece there from Little Angel. Barbara Ann Jack is joining us. Good morning, Barbara. Carla Clement saying, good morning, Uncle George, and listening, and all listening today. She's always wishing us a blessed day. Spice Babes Duncan. Spice Babes Duncan says, good morning, people. I just reached. Okie doke, folks. Let's take another little break here, and then we're going to come on back with the new today.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy.
We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our Spice Isle.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing.
A commemorative postage stamp.
So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Alrighty, here we go. I mentioned to you a little while ago that we were going to launch a new chat box. Well, while I was speaking to you a few minutes ago, I received word that that chat box has now gone live. It's on Grenada Broadcast. And all you need to do, once again, just put your name in there and your email address click Login, and there you go. So, I just tested it, and I see that it's up. But I'm also seeing a post here. I don't know who the heck put that post in. Obviously, the person's name is not there. It says, "Good morning, George and class, and very pleasant week to all. Our present administration owes us answers to our very serious concerns, re our oil and gas, the Liverard project, the fish and shrimp farm, and a host of other concerns." Well, nameless. Good point. Good point. Thank you very much. And let's get now, hold on, back here. Carla Clement is saying, good morning to Andy Noel, and Spice Babes is saying, "George, you're doing a good job. Keep it up. Thank you very much. I need your encouragement." Okay, let's get down to the editorial from the New Today. Captioned, "The Secret Deal. Several Grenadians now feel a sense of betrayal by the new National Party government of Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell on the oil and gas deal reached with the Global Petroleum Group of Russia. The citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique have to rely on media sources outside of Grenada for the little bits and pieces of our potential oil and gas resources in the face of an almost deafening silence by government. And our people have been comparing the transparent manner in which Guyana, a fellow member of the Caribbean community, like Grenada, has been very open in its dealings with the U.S. giant ExxonMobil, which is engaged in oil and gas drilling in its waters. The Guyanese people have been kept abreast by the government in Georgetown about the potential financial benefits to the country from each and every oil find that is made by Exxon. There was another oil find in Guyana's territorial waters 3 weeks ago, and the following report was made available not only to the people of Guyana, but the world at large. It reads, and I quote, "ExxonMobil made a new oil discovery in the Yellowtail-1 well offshore Guyana," the company has announced. This marks the 13th discovery on the Stabroek Block and adds to the already 5.5 billion barrels of oil equivalent in the block. Yellowtail-1 is also the 5th discovery in the Turbot area, which is expected to become a major development hub. Yellowtail-1, which is located about 6 miles northwest of the Tilapia discovery, was drilled to a depth of 18,445 feet in 6,046 feet of water. Drilling on the well commenced on March 27th. Similar to the Liza area, successive discoveries in the Turbot area have continuously grown its shared value. So says Mike Cousins, Senior Vice President of ExxonMobil Exploration and New Ventures. Our leading upstream capabilities, the strength of our partnerships, and our ongoing commitment to growing Guyana's offshore potential, he added. ExxonMobil previously stated there was potential for at least 5 floating production, storage, and offloading vessels in the Stabroek Block, producing more than 750,000 barrels of oil per day by 2025. ExxonMobil affiliate Esso Exploration and Production Guyana Limited are the operator, and holds 45% interest in the Starbrook block, while Hess Guyana Exploration Limited holds 30% interest, and CNOOC Petroleum Guyana Limited, a wholly owned subsidiary of CNOOC Limited, holds 45% of interest. Unquote. Why can't our own government in Grenada tell the nation what percentage of the financial take it will get from the GPG deal? Why this continued secrecy? The New today is not blaming GPG for any advantageous position that it was able to secure from government, since, as a private sector business concern, its primary objective is profit-making and not losses from its investment. GPG would have advanced millions to the NNP government over the years and would certainly want to recover it down the road once oil and gas have been discovered. And it should be noted that the government has never told the people who were its team of negotiators who met with the Russians to hammer out the oil and gas exploration agreement. At least, the 2008 to 2013 National Democratic Congress government of former Prime Minister Sherdine Thomas was very transparent in giving the names of its team, led by Dr. Carl Mitchell, that negotiated the boundaries between Grenada and Trinidad when the current Minister of Foreign Affairs, Peter David, was the line minister in that period. What is it? What it is that GPG found in Grenada's territorial waters? Is it both oil and gas, or only gas? It should be noted that the Russian company signed an agreement with a company in Trinidad for all the gas that can be exploited in Grenadian waters, in which the government was noticeably absent. This agreement did not mention anything about oil. There is now a Chinese company in the mix, from all reports, and Grenadians have no information on how much the new entrant into this oil and gas business will be taking away from the deal. It begs the question, why is the Grenada oil and gas deal covered up in so much mystery? It is only a few in the NNP regime who seemingly know anything about the secret deal between GPG and the government of Grenada. Why should our oil and gas patrimony become the personal domain of a few in the country, like Prime Minister Mitchell and his Energy Minister, Gregory Bowen? And that, Pilgrims, is the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition, on Friday, of The New Today. 16 minutes away from the hour. Let's get back here. Now, let's see here. Carla Clementis, hold on a minute. Spice Babes. No. It's Spice Babes is saying, where do I find the chat box, George? Spice Babes, it's on the bottom right of the Grenada broadcast homepage. That's on the opposite side of where it was. It was on the bottom left. It's now on the bottom right. Okay? Check it out. And let's see. Carla Clemens says, why the Russians like the Caribbean? Why the Russians like the Caribbean so? Grenada and now Venezuela too. If not China, is Russia now. I smell our fish. So says Carla. Ernesto Jose says, is it true that the PM is one of the investors in the make-believe shrimp farm scandal for Victoria. I think I did hear that, Ernesto. Jackie O says, I'll go add the country of Grenada to my daily prayer list. God help our little Spice Isle. Jackie, pray real hard, girl. Things are a mess here. Okay. I see that one of my first guests has arrived. I haven't seen Citizen Rullow, but I have seen Sherdine. She just stuck her head in here. So we're going to take another little break here, and we are going to come right on back.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company. Tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive. Motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary. Public liability. Professional indemnity. Directors liability. And wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Are you equipped to take a closer look behind the numbers? The Caribbean Institute of Forensic Accounting can help you build your professional skills to audit and investigate fraud, waste, and abuse. Through the Forensic Certified Public Accountants FCPA program, you gain qualification to conduct forensic audits and investigations globally. Earn international recognition and designation as a Forensic Certified Public Accountant from the Forensic CPA Society of the USA. Certificate courses run May to November 2019 in Grenada at the Grenada National Stadium. To register, contact us at info@cfa-edu.com or 868-224-3478.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing.
A commemorative postage stamp.
So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Alrighty, folks, it's now, let's see here, 12 minutes before the hour, and as I mentioned to you, Sherdine has already shown up, but unfortunately, we still have not seen JR, Citizen Rullow, but I imagine that he will be here very shortly. Take a look. There's Sherdine. Say good morning, Sherdine.
Good morning.
Say again.
Good morning.
Okay, Sherdine is saying good morning to you, folks. All right, folks, I'd like you to meet this young lady, and I'll tell you just a wee bit about her. I heard from her a few weeks ago, and she's somebody who is the mother of, two children with disabilities, and feels that she's not, or they have not been getting the attention to which they're entitled. And she has taken to social media with her plea for help. And needless to say, Citizen Rullow, John Rullow, has become involved in this. And he's supposed to be joining us here this morning. Let me start by asking her to tell us a little bit about Sherdine. Why don't you, Sherdine?
Okay. My mother, as you said, I have two special needs children. A daughter who's 12, and she has a speech impairment and a developmental delay. I have a son, he's 10. He has autism. He is nonverbal. He's still using Pampers. I went to social media because I felt that the system has been failing my children to the point of which I become frustrated, so I took to social media to raise the attention of persons as to my situation, and I'm sure other situation here in Grenada. What is the system that is set right now for persons with disabilities is disappointing to the fact that my son is 10 and has never been to school, not from effort, not from me not making the effort. It's because, to me, the Ministry of Education has not seen it important for him to be in school. I see that as disappointing on their part, because education is a right for all, and they fail in my son in that regard.
Okay, you mentioned the two youngsters with disabilities. Could you tell us what those disabilities are?
Yeah, my daughter, she has a developmental delay, meaning that she's 12, but she's not yet at a 12-year-old level. She also has a speech impairment, where she can, her speech is not to the best.
And what about your son?
My son is autistic. He's never been properly diagnosed, but through research and through observation from myself and my family, we determined that he is autistic.
Okay, but that determination was not professionally made. It was made by you and your family?
Yes. Well, based on research and observation with my son, because there is no one on island to actually diagnose autism. There's no specialist or anything, so there's no way where I could go to properly diagnose him to know how far on the spectrum he is. So that's...
Did you check with the Ministry of Health?
Not the Ministry of Health, but through the Council for Disabled, they sought persons to diagnose my son, but there's no doctor on island to actually diagnose. So.
And you have been told that officially there's no doctor on island. You've heard that either from the ministry or from maybe from a doctor?
Not the ministry, but I've also been in contact with the Autistic Foundation, and they are right now in. I've been back and forth with the person in the Autistic Foundation, and she is right now trying to speak to SGU and see if a specialist could be available to properly diagnose persons. But as of right now, to my knowledge, there's no actual specialist to diagnose autism.
Okay, so when you have these problems with your youngsters and you approach the Ministry of Health, what was the reaction?
I didn't approach the Ministry of Health. I approached Social Development and
the
Ministry of
Social Development is the ministry. Well, sorry, yes. Okay, yeah, but it is the government, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I approached the Ministry of Education and the Ministry for Social Development. Approached the Ministry of Education for my son because there's a school for special education. So seeing that my child had a special need, I approached them to find out what exactly is needed so he could go to school, because I explained to them the situation with them, meaning that he was not potty trained, etc. There's a special education desk at the ministry headed by Miss St. John. So I've been speaking to her concerning my son going to school. That was since he was 3 years. There was not a caregiver at the school to deal with a child like my son. So they told me that one needs to be employed so they could be down there to deal with my son, seeing that he is not yet potty trained.
Go ahead.
Yes, so I approached her on that, and she took the information and told me that they need to get a caregiver.
Okay.
So 3 years up till now, they got the caregiver last year. So he was supposed to start in September. Well, due to certain situation, he wasn't able to start because he fell sick, etc. So he wasn't able. At this point right now, the caregiver ankle broke, so she's on sick leave. That's since last term. So he has not yet been to school. Yeah, but the effort has been made since he was 3. So they fail my son. I see it as a failure to my son because all these years just to get a caregiver to provide at the school so my son could be included and see what form of education can be given to him. So that I also had a meeting with the Minister for Education, that is Mr. Anthony Boswin. We had a conversation and well, there was no results from that meeting. He just told me that he will get to Miss St. John. And that was it on his part.
Okay. I'll tell you what, let's pause for a minute here because we've now been joined by Citizen Rullow. Citizen Rullow, would you help him to put this headset on for me, Sherdine?
Sure.
Citizen Rullow, it is so good to see you as always. Put the, right, there you go. All right, Citizen Rullow, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Citizen Grant, and good morning.
Good morning.
Greetings. My humble apologies and so on. They came late to meet me, and since 8:45 I was ready. But anyway, we're here.
Better late than never.
Yeah. But I really was concerned about, creating distortions in your program. But thank you very much for the opportunity, Citizen Grant.
Well, you haven't heard much of what this lady has had to say.
No, but
I'm
she
sure
gave me the story when she called me and contacted me. She gave me a bit of a story and her plight, should I say.
As a member of the disabled community, I mean, I'm sure you have a lot to say about this.
Well, indeed. But I'd like to take away something that disabled community.
Okay.
People, the community of persons or people with disabilities. I'd rather that, Citizen Grant.
Persons with disabilities.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
Because no one can tell me I'm disabled.
Yes.
As a matter of fact,
I think the whole country knows that.
As unable as one may be, there is always an ability, Citizen Grant, or more than one.
Yes.
This is what I believe, and it's been proven worldwide. This is why the United Nations, the countries of the nations of the United Nations that discuss this entire issue, has eliminated certain terms from for describing people like us, whether regardless of your disability. Yes, so it's a very serious issue that the sister raised with me, and I thanked her. I told her that I'd be willing to come in and chip in. My concern, Citizen Grant, this is just an introduction, is as it relates to the state, it pains me to use the word, the state of Grenada, the scornful disdain of the state of Grenada towards the community of persons with disabilities in this here country, Citizens. That's my problem. And this is basically want to talk what I will, my contribution will be about, so to speak.
Well, get started.
Yeah, well, I heard the story about the sister, and it's rather unfortunate. The thing, we never know what will happen to us. Citizen graduate, I never thought I would have been one. Listen, my old grandfather was blind, but believe you me, I never thought that I would become blind one day.
Yeah.
And in the peak of my career, it struck me, glaucoma. And there it was. I had a lot of operations, 1, 2, 3, 4 major operations and so on. And it just never worked out for me, but there you go. But that doesn't mean the end of my life. As a matter of fact, it isn't grand for me. And well, scientifically, one doesn't see with his oculi, his or her oculi, in other words, the 2 eyes mounted on your forehead. No. What is reflected there is what the brain interprets. And so there are a lot of things I can't risk to do, but I can see, Citizen Grant. As a matter of fact, I believe I see much better than other Grenadians.
Yeah.
Point I'm going to getting at here, Citizen Grant, regardless, it is the duty of the state not to do everything for us, but at least to create the conditions, and not by their own whims and fancies or because of the political persuasion It is as established by international convention. The wisdom of the United Nations from 1992 started to discuss this issue. They had a decade of, they call it the decade of the disabled. At the end, that changed. That's why the name of the categorization of the people changed. It went on to 2006 and so on, before it reached to the signing, the presentation, the serious final discussion. And in 2008, Citizen Grant, on the 3rd of May 2008, this convention was set up for immediate application and implementation. 2008, the 3rd of May, 2 days ago, we celebrated 11 years. The state, the aristocracy, the uncaring, irresponsible aristocracy that rules this country chooses not to pay attention to the people of this country, totally disregarding and spitting in the face of international law and convention. And this is what I despise, Citizen Grant. And this is the reason why I came here this morning, particularly to talk about this and to challenge them. The most I can do is to challenge them. Total disrespect. I call it scornful disdain, how they treat us as a community in this country.
Could you give me some examples of the unfair or inappropriate treatment that you folks are receiving?
Well, first of all, I would say one of the unfair treatment is my son not being in school. Okay, so if it was that I was not sending my child to school, there's somebody called a truancy officer. The truancy officer will investigate as to why I'm not sending my child to school. And it's like, that is on my part. On their part, they're the ones that failing to have my child. They're the ones that have been failing my child to be in school. But yet, for all, I have nobody to go to and ask. Okay, well, so why is that? Take them, just like how the penalties for me not having my child in school. There's no penalties for them not making it making everything in place for my son, if you understand. So I see that now as a failure on their part and a total disregard, because every child needs education and early intervention for persons with disabilities, especially with like my son who's autistic. Early intervention is key.
Is the key.
So right now he is at a he's right now way behind, if education-wise. So if we're trying at home, but what I'm saying is I'm not the trained in dealing with a child with autism. Yes, I do the research and I try my best with what I can do, but yet for all, there's nothing in place whereby, okay, persons trained to deal with children like my son. And I see that as a failure on their part, because my son is not benefiting anything. He's just home. You understand? So if it was that they saw persons like my son or persons with disabilities as important, these things have already been placed, and I would not have to be struggling and suffering for all these years for him to be in school. For instance, my son ended up in hospital. Because he's not accustomed to the area or the place, he would act up. The nurses aren't trained, they're not accustomed to dealing with somebody like, so they had no idea how to deal with him. He had to be restrained. There wasn't even restraints for him. They use bandages to just tie, like the bandages you have a sprain. That is what they used to tie his hands. I came and saw that, and it hurt me to know that even a hospital doesn't have the relevant equipment to deal with persons like my son, and like persons that act up, children like my son. There is nothing with that. I see it like they should have provisions whereby I should be with him, knowing that the type of child I have, I should be able to stay with him. There's no provisions in place for that, so I had to leave him in the care of them who don't understand him and in the situation where they don't even have the proper restraints and stuff. So I had to leave him in that situation, and it hurt me to know that a hospital has no provisions in place for persons like my son. So I saw that as a failure on their part just the same.
Let me bring JR back into this. JR, you're sitting here listening to this young lady, and I'm not standing in defense of the government, because there are a lot of complaints all over the place about the quality of healthcare we have in Grenada. But let me ask you this, JR, to be fair, could a lot of this be just because we simply do not have the resources? Or is that coupled with an attitude?
They're all coupled, they're all joint, Citizen Grant, they're all joint. Listen, we train our people. You go to the universities around and so on, you ask questions. Everybody wants to be lawyers, doctors, engineers, but there are other professional, ancillary professionals related to health and so on that we need to train our people in. Just imagine today, 2019, we don't have people trained to deal with autistic part of population, a part of the population that is autistic, and other things.
Yes,
we need to. It's deficiency, and it's because of the one you mentioned, attitude. I don't believe that we don't really have the so-called resources. I don't believe that. It's an attitude, and it's an aristocratic attitude that has been passed through the colonial system to us, that when a person has an illness of such nature, they're called shut-ins and they're abandoned. This is colonialism in its truest form. So that pains me.
If the state saw persons with disabilities as important, all these things would be included.
Precisely.
All these things would be included, like, okay, you're training a nurse, you train a nurse to deal with persons with disabilities.
That when a person
you're training
has an illness of such nature, they're called shut-ins.
You see now, the stereotype in Grenada is the same: doctor, nurse, lawyer, etc. But these could be, they could be included, like, for instance, a lawyer specializing in disability law, a nurse specializing in disability to deal with. So you see, so it should start at the education level, whereby now they train children to think out of the box and include persons with disabilities, and say that this, okay, for instance, there's no daycare for disabled for persons with disability, like children with disability. There's no preschool. Yes, they say inclusion, but at the same time, most of the schools these days, the public school these days, does not have a special education teacher trained to deal with persons with disabilities. You understand? Especially like autism and stuff like that.
And other intellectual disorders, yes.
The persons that deal with the inclusion of children in the school that are blind, there are persons not blind, deaf. I know that there is a school for the deaf, and they go into the schools and deal with children that are deaf. So they should advance it to include teachers that deal with autism.
Seriously deficient.
There's nothing really in place, and from a state point of view, these policies should be in place to include persons with disabilities, so that they don't feel left out. Everybody included, nobody excluded. If you understand what I'm saying, because persons are being excluded work-wise. They discriminate against persons with disabilities when that should not be. There should be awareness, because I spoke to Mr. Rullow, and he gave me the site to go on to start to look at the Convention on the Rights for Persons with Disabilities, and in that there's a topic called awareness from a state point, whereby now make the public aware, society aware that persons with disabilities are part of the society, and they are supposed to be included in society and not excluded. And because of the awareness isn't being raised, we're in 2019 and persons are still calling persons with disabilities retarded and all these things. If awareness was raised and they saw persons with disabilities as important, these things would be included, awareness raised, just as how they have news and they have ads and all these things. They should have raised the awareness so persons are aware that persons with disabilities are part of society.
All right, before we get too far behind, John, I want you to tackle this because there are a couple of comments that have, quite a few comments that have been showing up in social media. First of all, a little while ago, she talked about her child being restrained. Margaret Francis, who works in the healthcare system in New York, she is saying here, restrained? Tying hands? That is abuse.
That's a criminal act.
Okay, now hold on a minute. Doesn't end there. Carla Clement says, legally, you're not allowed to restrain anyone. Jackie O says, yes, indeed. As a healthcare worker, we cannot restrain a patient. That is abuse and a safety concern.
Well, he
was. Hold on. Let me hear what John has to say.
Yeah, well, indeed, George, listen. This thing goes back to the fact that the state, I retract that word, the aristocracy that rules Grenada, is totally non-compliant with the United Nations Convention. As a matter of fact, disrespectful to the people of Grenada. Totally disrespectful. I choose to call it scornful disdain, the way they treat people like that. Now, from the time this convention has been set up for immediate implementation, 2008, George, 11 years now, had we started to do something to bring about the discussion on it? The sister raised the issue of awareness. How many Grenadians know that this convention exists? Article 4 of the convention, you must have read it, sister. Article 4 is very carefully outlined the states, they call it state parties, the responsibilities and obligations of the state parties. It said state parties shall do this, shall do that, shall. So it doesn't grant obligatory when the word shall in law is used. We don't do anything. And we set up a pseudo philanthropic organization whose patrons the Governor General, to make the office of the Governor General look good, but they are not concerned about guaranteeing the rights of people with disabilities. No. They're concerned about making I call them self-serving people. I don't want to hit them too hard, but we just call them self-serving folks. The obligations of the state is to establish a state body to guarantee the identification, categorization, evaluation, and then registration of all the people, all the citizens with disabilities. When I say categorization, I mean all the various sensory disabilities, intellectual, physical, whatnot, on all levels, including people with autism and other intellectual disorders like that. It is a duty of the state to do. They don't do it.
No.
They chose not to do it 11 years. That is total disrespect for the people.
But
hold on a sec. I just want to keep up with the comments here because Anthea Rullow says she agrees with what Margaret said a little while ago about this being abuse. And she says it's so disheartening. And James Celestine says, exactly. How do you feel to leave your child in the care of people that don't know how to care for them?
Exactly.
That's tough. Then Margaret says, yep, I too am in healthcare, and I know that. There is a definite movement away from that kind of treatment of patients.
Yeah.
Louise Noel Ambrose says, empathy and resources are needed. Sure you will both agree with that.
Yeah.
Grenada Sunshine says, healthcare workers as well as educators should be trained to work with children with special needs. Jackie O has a question here for the parent. Are you getting any support for your health and well-being? Taking care of special needs children could be taxing for the parent. Stress and burnout are real. Let me hear you, Sherdine.
Stress and burnout, oh yes. It is very frustrating, and to know that there's no way you could turn to actually get some kind of support. I went to this Ministry of Social Development because I thought that that is a ministry that deals with social issues, etc. So I went there. I explained the situation to them. They put me on the SEED program. That is assistance they give at the end of the month. The minimum is $400. So that is where the Ministry of Social Development, they just put me on the SEED program. So I was not really looking for that. I was just looking for some kind of support system that maybe understand my plight, and as a parent, a single parent dealing with two special needs children, especially as an autistic child, non-verbal, he's overactive. It is frustrating. I don't even know what to say concerning that because it's overwhelming. There's an autistic foundation, so I reached thinking that it's an autistic foundation. There should be persons that understand autism. I reached out to them. I sent them a very explicit letter stating my frustration, thinking that they would understand and probably get back to me and give me some kind of support, moral support, whatever support they could give, advice or etc. They took the letter and sent it to CPA because I was explicit in describing how I felt, certain thoughts I was having, etc. And they sent it to CPA without getting back into contact with me. And CPA, I got an email from CPA stating that they concerned about the child's safety and welfare, and they need to get in touch with me. So I saw that as disappointing in that I thought they would, being the Autistic Foundation, they would understand where I was coming from and the frustration I was having as a parent, explaining the type of child I had. So I saw it as disappointing. So really and truly, there's no network in place really and truly for support in any kind of way. For my son, I accept the struggles I have to go through because it's my child, and I am not going to give up on that.
You can.
But from a state point of view, I find that they should have things in place. They're not asking for everything because, as you know, Grenada is a third world country, and they keep talking about they don't have money and stuff like that. But if they could just put certain things in place that persons could feel at least comfortable and know that you have the support from a state point, they could go to, if I have any concern issues, I could go here, I could go there, whatever, but there's no way to turn, really and truly.
All right, some more comments here. First of all, Carla Clemens says, having a challenge physically or mentally isn't partial. So the powers that be must be careful. God doesn't like injustices. We need to be careful how we treat the vulnerable in our society. SD Notap says, Citizen John summed it up nicely, as he quite rightly pointed out the description of these people as disabled. It implies an ignorance by the authorities that is reflected in the way they deal with them. They are people with disabilities. They are human beings. So says SD Notap.
Quite good.
John Kelly says, when you have a dysfunctional government, that is what will happen. Carla says, because no one is taking them to task for it, they think it's okay to treat people with scorn. Sad, sad, very sad. No wonder so many bad things are happening in Grenada, because we don't treat our vulnerable people with love. Janice Jones Bagwan says, they should not be sharing your information with anyone without your approval.
That's another thing.
Ernesto Jose says, we send students to study in Cuba and China. Why are we not having some of them train in that field to help with that issue facing some of our children?
Yep.
Kipling Francis says, when will Grenadians understand the government doesn't give one iota of concern about the welfare of its citizens, except for their votes?
Yeah.
That's quite significant.
Keep
Touch a bit
dreaming. Let's see here. Jackie O says, an attorney or lawyers listening to help be an advocate for this parent. Any attorney or lawyers listening to help to be an advocate for this parent. The children have a right to education and care. What sweet in goat mouth is sour in never. JR, listen, we're fast running out.
Imaginary run out of time, George, but there's so many. This is an issue that we had to continue to talk about. As a matter of fact, it's coincidental that I had planned to start to talk about matters related to people with disabilities this month. Yeah, and then the young lady called me. You would believe this? But I'm happy to talk about George. Article 7 of the convention is crystal clear: the rights of children. Rights of children, George. Education, regardless of your state, regardless, you have to be exposed to whatever level. What is the duty of the state to provide it? It's the duty of the state. It's everything here. No, we're not saying, and she says, the sister rightly said that the state has to do every living thing. But at least create some sort of condition that the parents can feel. That the person themselves, especially if they're old people like me, but instead of assisting me and not to feed me, I don't want to be spoon-fed. What I want is my rights, so that I can make effort. That if the child's right is respected, the mother can make efforts to. You understand?
So this is the situation right now.
They disrespect us.
Yeah. So, for instance, right now, my mom is a person that usually assists me while I work. So I got started a new job on Thursday. They called my mom for jury duty. The caregiver for the school ankle broke, so he cannot go to school now. Where do I turn? There's nothing in place. There's no way I can say, okay, well, this is a place I can feel comfortable. There are trained persons there where I can leave my son to go to work, make a living for us, and pick him up and come back. There's nothing like that. So I am left now. With me, I'm sticking my child security first. I would have to stay home. You understand? Because in reality, there's nothing in place. I have nobody to turn to. I'm not going to put my child in the hands of somebody that does not understand my child or are aware of persons with autism. That is, my child's safety is, so I wouldn't do that. So this is the type of situation I know of persons that cannot work because they have a child with disability and there's no way to put the child, so they have to stay home with the child. When the state's supposed to provide, these are the things I'm speaking about. Providing, having places and things, put things in place for persons like myself so we could feel normal. My children could go to school, do what I have to do. I could do what I have to do to provide for my children, etc. So they're leaving people vulnerable.
Okay. I said we're running out of time, guys, but I want to check out two more comments here and hear from both of you very quickly. First of all, Margaret is responding to Ernesto's comment a little while ago, and she said, Ernesto, that requires forward thinking. Ernesto was suggesting that we send students to Cuba to learn, okay? She says, government scholarship should be based on developmental needs, developmental goals.
Yes.
But then again, that requires having vision.
Exactly.
A word that is absent from the Grenadian vocabulary.
Oh, yes.
So says Margaret.
Quite correct.
Now here's an interesting one. Irvin N. Samuel says, okay, hold on a sec here. Let me make sure I grab Irvin. Irvin says, I have seen a recent report where the WHO rated Grenada's mental health care capacity as almost Zero.
Wow.
Not surprising.
The big question is, what is government doing with taxpayers' money if they're not even taking care of the basic social needs of the people of Grenada? Okay, I want you guys to comment on that.
I mean, listen, this is a long topic.
Yes, it is.
You know, this issue of resources and lack of resources and fiscal responsibility, I don't believe in that. This country has money.
Mm-hmm.
This country has money. This country's money is being given away, ripped off by all sorts of acts of corruption. In other words, this irresponsible, immoral government, totally disrespecting the people of this country, maintains corruption, poverty, lawlessness, immorality, so much. Listen, let me just round off here because we run out of time. Citizen Grant, the convention is very clear. The convention states crystal clear after all these years of discussion that viewing people with disabilities ought to be different to the way it used to be. People with disability should not be seen as objects of charity, medical attention, nor social backup, but to be seen as citizens with rights, capable of claiming these rights regardless of your state. If the young one can't personally, then the parent shall, because it's our responsibility too. But we are citizens capable of claiming our own rights, and we're entitled to them. It's a duty of the state, and we have to get down on the back of the state and these numpties and disrespectful and self-serving, careless people. We have to challenge them. So I want to tell you, reporter, I'm happy that you came out on this issue, sister. I don't know you.
All right, let me tell you what, guys. I want to share some more comments with you because my next guest, who's sitting in New York, is waiting to get on the air.
Yes.
But I really want to share these comments with you. First of all, Ernesto says, everything about this administration is dysfunctional and unbelievable. Jackie O says, as a former bedside nurse and now a manager, my heart aches for you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your story. I pray that God will continue to protect and bless your family. John Caliste says, whoa, 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 whoa. Now, that is really sad. Spice Babes Duncan says, did the child get refused at school because of him not being potty trained? If so, that shouldn't be. And one final comment to close it off, Sherdine and John. Lydia James says, a nation where there is no vision, the people perish. Let me thank both of you. Let me thank both of you.
Thank you. But on this issue, we had to be back citizens.
Hey, JR, look at me. Look at me. I know you can see me, JR.
Won't tell you I can't see you.
JR.
But even if it's not this program, I'm trying to raise awareness as much as possible.
Okay. We have to do that.
So, and I'm not going to stop because something needs to change.
We have to expose them.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
It's been a pleasure, Citizen Grant. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Citizen Rullow, and better known to everybody as JR, and also a lady by the name of Sherdine Thomas. Sad story, but I felt it was important that I bring this to you. Many of you know about this. I mean, a lot of what you heard here this morning is really not news. However, it needs to be repeated until the message sinks in. And that's what we're going to do. Pilgrims, let me take a break. Come back with this gentleman out there in New York this morning, a young man by the name of Johncrow Alexander. He's all headsetted up and ready to go. We'll get to him in a wee bit.
My name is Jennifer James, and I've been making confectionaries for the past 7 years. Growing up as a little girl, I always wanted to make these little things. Forge, sugar cake, tamarind ball, these little things. I read something actually, and it said that tamarind itself is very good because it eliminates fat from the liver. You get the mature tamarind and you crack it, you shell it out. I would add a little baking soda, some spices, I would leave it to rest probably for about 2 hours and then add my sugar and just start kneading. I usually knead it hard enough so that I can roll it. When I finish roll it, I will paste it with the actual white or brown sugar and you have a nice tamarind ball. I have been providing food fair with tamarind ball about 6 years now. I started producing tamarind ball to sell for the school children. I thought I could advance somewhere. So I went to food fair and I asked one of the sales persons there if they would be interested in selling my tamarind ball. And she told me yes. She told me to bring 20 packets to start with. It was really a joy for me because I wanted to extend on my little business. My name is Jennifer James and I work with the food fair to provide you with tamarind balls.
Are you equipped to take a closer look behind the numbers? The Caribbean Institute of Forensic Accounting can help you build your professional skills to audit and investigate fraud, waste, and abuse. Through the Forensic Certified Public Accountants FCPA program, you gain qualification to conduct forensic audits and investigations globally. Earn international recognition and designation as a Forensic Certified Public Accountant from the Forensic CPA Society of the USA. Certificate courses run May to November 2019 in Grenada at the Grenada National Stadium. To register, contact us at info@cfa-edu.com or 868-224-3478.
Alrighty, folks. Yes, sirree. It's now 10:32, and Grenada Sunshine says, "Wake up, Grenadians. Too much a responsibility on the part of those ruling Grenada, huh?" And Philip Jack says, "We have an administration who only cares about our vote. Our health care is not their concern. Please give us your vote and wait." Philip, I've never quite heard it said that way, but okay. Pilgrims, 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 pilgrims. Take a look, take a look. There he is, sitting down in New York, all saddled up and ready to go. It's time to say good morning to Mr. Johncrow Alexander. Hello there, John.
Good morning. I hope you could hear me. I didn't test my audio before I got on.
Well, boy, I guess I'm in luck this morning because I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yeah. How are you, fella?
I'm using a different I'm using a different computer this morning, and I've never done anything like this on this machine. So you know how these machines can be very
temperamental.
Temperamental is a good word.
Yeah. Johncrow is a very well recognized person in the diaspora in New York, introduced to me by a young lady by the name of Margaret Francis. Margaret picks up all these strange people and send them to George, huh?
I wonder why.
I wonder why.
I wonder why.
Hey, Max, thank you so much. John, listen, very briefly, we only have about half an hour or so why don't you start by telling people just a wee bit about the sort of mischief you get into in New York on behalf of your country?
I had to be very careful because the last time I was on with you, my wife said, you didn't allow the man to ask you not one question. You just talk for the whole time, all by yourself. So
I want to meet your wife.
So I have to give you a chance to ask me questions. The programs, I'm involved with a couple of things. That both two of which are directly relating to Grenada. And the young lady who you just had on is typical or typifies the kind of work that I'm involved with in constantly trying to bring services to Grenada, to Grenadians. It's unfortunate that the people who are, again, remember last time I mentioned the gatekeepers, people who are at the and holding the gate, in many cases, don't recognize or realize how much harm they're doing by not doing anything and or not trying to do anything. I know we have limited resources. We are a very small country for the most part, and somebody says we have money. Yes, we have money, but the people in charge are not totally, or they seem to not totally aware of some of the acute little areas of need. So one of the reasons why I got involved with right now the collection of items that will be distributed to the 14 nursing homes we have in Grenada. I'm collecting sheets, wipes, beds, hospital beds, I should say, walkers. As a matter of fact, when I was on the last time, a young man, a viewer from your audience, reached out to me and saying to me that the walker that he has is in dilapidated state, and can I get him a walker? So I put an extra effort out there. As a matter of fact, last night on my way home, someone threw out a walker and it was sitting in the garbage. I went in the garbage and I took it out of the garbage, and it was a brand new. Apparently they got it and they probably used it one time because all of the wrappings and so forth was still on it. Sometimes people call me up, I go to their homes, pick up whatever it is that they're offering me. So we need help. And I mean, yes, we can curse the darkness, but where I come from, we prefer to light a candle. There's a young lady from Atlanta who is also trying to do the same thing. Yvonne James, I think she's on the program this morning. I think I heard her name mentioned. She too is trying to do some work in the area of the hearing impaired, and there are a lot of our children who have speech impediments and have hearing problems, and so she's trying to bring some awareness to that area and some services to that area. Again, the people who are in the gate, standing at the doorway, for the most part, seems to be the problem of how much they allow in, when they allow it in, and those kinds of things. The other piece that I'm working on is with Dr. Dragon. He's involved with this. The group, I sent you a videotape the last time introducing myself to you and what I do. So the team from HERO, which is Health and Education Relief Organization, there's a team on its way to Grenada on the date. I have dates here. Friday, June 7th to Sunday, June 9th, and they are coming in to do another 7 fistula operations, where they're going to be working with patients who are dialysis patients and to implant fistulas in fistulae, I was corrected, of air, fistulae into their arms or wherever that they can find the necessary areas to implant these fistulae in these 7 patients in order for them to be able to receive the dialysis with much ease. In a nutshell, I mean, that's basically the 2 things that I'm involved with on a one-on-one basis. And then my cousin is getting married in December, and I had to find my way to Grenada, or else she might kill me.
John, I really do appreciate the work, and it's not just you. There's so many others like yourself who make these efforts. You guys go out of your way to put packages of aid together, and that's what it is. You're helping your country. Even though you're a long way off, you really still do believe your heartstrings here, your navel strings here.
Navel string.
Right. It's still here in Grenada.
We don't want to bury the heartstring yet.
But I've talked to a lot of you, and for many of you, it's a very, very frustrating process. And though you may be trying very hard, I hope that you guys don't get frustrated. I'm an optimist, and I do believe that things will turn around, where you guys can be appreciated like you ought to be. I'm not saying that you guys go out asking for praise. I know people who would rather remain anonymous, but they're still helping. They're reaching out. And keep it up, Di. Keep it up.
Well, with your support, excuse me, I was hoping this coughing wouldn't start. With your support and with your help and people like yourself who opening the door, and like I keep saying about the gatekeepers, those who are standing in the gate, I mean, my appeal is to them, and we are not, those of us who are involved with call it the kind of work, outreach, outreach work that we do, we're not doing it because we're looking for name or looking for stature, looking for fame. In my case, I could only speak for myself. I'm involved with it because I recognize there's a need in certain areas. I have access to certain people. John Mitchell is the president of Hero. Carly Udcock is the vice president. I've been working with that team for several years now, compiling the vision with them.
Can you just give me the names of some of these homes that you're sending stuff to? But there are a lot of them. Yeah, yeah. So you do have a team. Yeah. And when are you guys going to be coming here again? Yes, for the fistula implants to start with, yeah. Now you have worked on a heck of a lot of different issues. It's not just the fistula implants. You've been providing other assistance to the island. Let's talk about some of the stuff that you've been doing in the past. Way to go, John. Well, I tell you, I asked you the last time you were on the program with us to please make sure you check me out when you set foot down here, because I want to shake your hand personally. I do appreciate it.
Trust me, I'm gonna find you. If I don't go in a crab hole to find you, I'm gonna find you. Trust me. What? Because no, the admiration, if I could use that word, is mutual. I admire. I've been admiring you for a while. So it's in the books. Once I get there, yours will be the first call that I make.
I would appreciate
the first stop that I make.
All right, John. Thank you very much, sir. I see here that some of the folks out there on social media are having a difficult time hearing you. I'm hearing you loud and clear, so I'm not sure where the problem is. They're saying you're distorted. You sound just fine to me here. So thank you very much, John. I really do appreciate it. Keep up the good work. That's all I can say. Keep up the good work, because a lot of people here depend on you. And for those who may not yet, sooner or later, they just may.
And you do the best you can. My heart goes out to that mother of her children that are being ignored. But I mean, it's more, like she said earlier, it's more than her, and it's more than more about the services and the community, because we are part of a community, and we cannot ignore. Okay, I happen to be able to afford to buy a bicycle today. You could still only afford a donkey cart. Doesn't mean that I'm better off than you. However, because I'm able to buy this bicycle, I ought to be able to say, well, I have a little spot, you could sit down on the handlebar, I could give you a ride, One day when you might come up and you might be able to own a Mercedes-Benz, and you could give me a ride. And I think Grenada is a place where we have a thing called, two things we have. We have Susu, and we have Maroons. At least we used to have that before, right? And I grew up in that environment. So I had to plant a patch of land, and I'm gonna put on some peas. When I harvest the peas, everybody who helped me plant that peas, they get a little bowl.
Yeah.
And we're happy with that. That's how I grew up. I'm moving my house, so everybody in the village come to help me move my house.
Yeah.
right? I mean, and we feed everybody, and that is the community that I know. So what I'm doing here is not something far-fetched, not something that is coming out of the sky someplace. This is what we do. Yeah. We help each other when we can. And this is what is really frustrating for me, are the people who sitting at the gate and are taking the sweet time. Like, you know, yes, you have a job today. Next week you might not have a job. Next week you might be walking into that office, you know, begging for some services. And I don't think enough of us understand that. All has to happen is just a little bit of fever, and all of what you have goes up in smoke. I have a friend of mine right now who happens to be a family member, which I didn't know that she was a family member, who is in California, just diagnosed with cancer. She's vibrant and living her life and living it to the fullest, and all of a sudden, boom, she comes down, cancer strikes her. Okay? No, she's the kind of a person who also very, very helpful. I mean, I can't call her name just yet, but we don't think. We do not think tomorrow is another day, and we have to do this. What we do today, the services that we render to each other today, is our rent. Somebody said this a while back. This is the rent that we pay for living on this planet. So we have to help each other whenever we can. It's not about yourself and how much money you have, and how much houses you have, and how much boats you could buy, and how much fishing rods, and how much golf clubs and all of that good stuff. No, you have to help people. Oh, and as I'm speaking golf clubs, because when I talk about golf, certain people come to mind. I have to acknowledge Francis Purcell. I have to remember. In the United States is Purcell. In Grenada is Purcell.
Yeah.
I have to remember to acknowledge her. And there's another person that I wanted to recognize as well. Anyway, it's going to come back to me. But but it's all about helping folks. Oh, Dr. Trevor Forrester. Every time I always tend to forget to mention him. He's been very, 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 very supportive of the trips by Hero, in terms of helping the doctors to come in and what have you, and whatever areas that he's able to extend his help.
He's involved with the dialysis, isn't he?
Yes, I think he is one of the people in charge or involved or own. I don't know his role, but I know that he's up there in that dialysis center, and he's been very, very, very supportive of this. Well, this 2 trips so far made by Hero into Grenada, providing the kind of service.
Let me throw something at you. First of all, Osmond Lewis says, "Thank you, John, for helping the people of Grenada." But there's also a comment here from Anthony Howard. He says, one of the problems he's encountered in donating items to institutions in Grenada is having to pay duties on donations. More information is needed from government to prevent this from happening. I see you nodding your head. What say you, sir?
Okay. A lot of people run into problems with that issue. I would couch it this way. If you want to make a donation of any kind to the country or to an organization, there is a process. And whether it be health related, whether it be police related, whatever the area that you're looking to make the donation, make contact first with the organization or the ministry or the unit and get some basic information from them. Step 2, in terms of getting quote-unquote concessions, have the local person on the ground speak to the ministry of that particular type of items that you're looking to donate.
Okay.
If you go through those channels, you will have less resistance. Doesn't say that you're not going to have any, but the resistance, you're breaking down the barriers. Many people say, well, okay, I want to send home an ambulance. I'll use a big one. And they just simply send the ambulance home. When that ambulance gets to Grenada, the docs, the Port Authority people, now are in quandary because who is this ambulance for? Who is it coming from? Etc., etc. And there's no paperwork anywhere. So now they have to go run around items that you're trying to figure out how to clear it off of the docks. It's not simply saying, well, we have an ambulance, we're glad to get the ambulance, and so hospitals will come and take it. It's not that simple. So there are steps and processes in place in order for these things to happen. If this guy wants to reach out to me, I can walk him through the steps. But mainly is a matter of making contact specifically with a particular ministry, the department, and knowing who the permanent secretary is, and I would say developing the kind of relationship. Hero was able to get in there. It took us a good little long time in order to make this part happen. We've been trying to, as simple as this might seem, the same Hero organization have been trying to get them to have a bigger team come into Grenada and do more of the work that they normally do.
Okay.
And even that, we already have a foot in the door, and you would think that is easy because we're already in.
Yeah.
But even with the foot in the door, we're still having to struggle to bring a larger, expanded team in.
You know, John, that is so sad, and I can relate to what you're saying because I know that there are others before you who have tried and have become so frustrated they've just taken off.
But this is why people like Barbara, I mean, I had to take my hat off to Barbara Brathwaite. Let me say the Grenadian, because in America we say Brathwaite, and then in Grenada we say Brathwaite.
Okay, we're running out of time. So,
so yeah, people like Barbara and people like Anno Geist, Apkin, they are the stalwarts on the ground in Grenada who are kicking in the doors and making it happen on that level.
Okay.
And make it easy for us to do what John and Bismuth is coming in to do. Thank you very much, George. I know we're running against the clock. The clock is always our enemy.
Yeah, but it's okay. You and I will have lots of time in the future, man. And when you come down to Grenada, you're coming and sit in this chair right next to me here.
Okay. I'm ready.
Take care,
I'm ready. Take care, and thank you so very much. One last thing. There are some Grenadians in Canada, Montreal specifically, as well as in Toronto, as well as in England, who are trying to do the same thing, and in some cases are doing it. And the support, I extend my support to them and my help to them as much as I can.
Keep it up, John. We appreciate
We're trying.
it. Take it easy, bro.
Have a good one and continue doing what you're doing.
Thanks a lot. Johncrow Alexander speaking to us this morning from the Big Apple. Pilgrims, I could talk to this guy for the rest of the day, but we just ain't have time. We got a lot of other stuff to get in here. Let me take a quick little break here and we'll come on back.
Are you equipped to take a closer look behind the numbers? The Caribbean Institute of Forensic Accounting can help you build your professional skills to audit and investigate fraud, waste, and abuse. Through the Forensic Certified Public Accountants FCPA program, you gain qualification to conduct forensic audits and investigations globally. Earn international recognition and designation as a Forensic Certified Public Accountant from the Forensic CPA Society of the USA. Certificate courses run May to November 2019 in Grenada at the Grenada National Stadium. To register, contact us at info@cfa-edu.com or 868-224-3478.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
I think Agatha Jordan sums it up by saying there's too much red tape in this place. Folks, for those of you who, on May Day, Wednesday, opted to go to the beach or spend some time with family or get involved in any other form of activity, you probably missed the address that was delivered to the workers of this country by the labor minister. Well, I'm going to play you his address right now. And you'll see that it was not unlike so many other Labor Day addresses where the labor minister got pounded. And not only that, we're also going to bring you a portion, 20 minutes or so, of the address that was delivered by the president of the Trades Union Council, Mr. Andre Lewis. But let's start with the labor minister. Here we go.
The chairman of today's May-Day rally, Comrade Andre Lewis, president of Grenada Trade Union Council, president and other executive members of the affiliated trade unions, ambassadors of Cuba, China, and Venezuela, members of the Conference of Churches Labor Commissioner, Mr. Cyrus Griffith, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labor, Mrs. Lima Frederick, and other officers of the ministry, representatives of the Grenada Employers Federation, sisters and brothers, comrades all. It is indeed one of the distinct honors of my public service to have been afforded the opportunity to stand here today in solidarity with your movement on what has become the most significant day in the life of Grenada. On this special day, I bring you profoundly warm greetings in my capacity as Minister of Labor and from the government of Grenada. My history of identification with the working people and organized labor is well documented. From my daily engagement with helping working people who came into conflict in the laws of Grenada, I am now in a position over the last 12 months to find fair and equitable solutions to the myriad of industrial relations problems that confront working people and employers. As we face many challenges together, I know it is easy to fall into a cycle of cynicism and into a circle of mistrust. But on this continuous, unceasing march to empowering workers and to do right by all, we must be careful not to let style get in the way of substance, nor personality in the way of unbreakable commitments. It may surprise some, but from where I sit as Minister of Labor, we are more hopeful today than we were a year ago that we will find fair, reasonable solutions to the biggest challenges that face workers in this country. We may sometimes haggle about the details. We may sit across the table with different perspectives at times, but we have no doubt that this coming era shall be working people's era. Not because we may stumble on the journey to a clear destination that we should give up the march. Instead, as we do in life, with each stumble, we steady ourselves and we continue the march on. For the destination to which you must get is fueled by an unbreakable commitment made by this government 2 years ago. We have dared to go where other administrations for more than a generation thought it was too challenging to attempt. And when we encounter rough patches, when we hit bumps in the road, we must remember how this journey started in hope and respect. And we must also not lose sight of where we want to get, to a place of solidarity and fairness. Colleagues and friends, genuine comrades might sometimes differ over strategy, over approach, over intensity, over pace. But make no mistake, there is no difference over intention. Within the Ministry of Labor and during the last year, we have settled scores of contentious labor issues. Almost every single one of them putting workers individually and collectively in better places. Most of those have not made the headlines, but I will leave it to the leadership of the unions and to individual workers who have been so positively affected to, in time, tell their own stories. And we have done right by hundreds of workers. Not for the spotlight, not for the gallery, but because it was the right thing to do and consistent with the laws of Grenada. We have valiantly guarded the rights of workers, and we have stood as a bulwark against emerging dangers that, if we were not careful, could undermine hard-fought gains. So it is a continuous work that deserves eternal vigilance, but it is also a work we are committed to do, and we shall do. Comrades, we have all lived and grown up in a small society where we have come to know each other's hearts. We know how our attitudes and approaches have been formed by previous roles. That is why we remain consistent and true to the philosophical position of what the place of the worker is in this and every other society. Working together, sisters and brothers, means reasoning together. Government's commitment to pension restoration and reform cannot be changed and won't be changed. This journey of pension restoration and reform started when our Prime Minister announced his commitments. Recall that our government did not appeal Mrs. Armstrong because of the new National Party administration's commitment. Recognizing the trying and difficult economic situation facing many workers and retired workers and retired public officers who were subsisting only on the NIS pension. The administration understood then that going before the court would tie up this issue for years before it was resolved, while the retired workers goes on suffering. Government therefore opted for positive and cooperative engagement with our trade union partners and restored the pension rights of Ms. Herman Armstrong and other such public workers, all of whom were fully paid in accordance with the ruling of the court. Continuing our scrupulous respect for the MOU and in keeping with our own May Day theme, I am happy to announce that government shall pay pensionable benefits to all those public workers who are appointed to the public service after February 22nd, 1985, and who have retired or are now retiring. These payments will be based on the agreed formula in the MOU and will pay the difference between the NIS pension and 70% of their salary earned at the point of their retirement from the service. This is absolutely a commitment. Like with every aspect of life and negotiations, sometimes the devil is in the execution of the details, and we understand that. We are aware that your unions have declared that the matter is no longer the subject for collective bargaining, but a constitutional matter which has been taken before the Constitutional Court. That is their right. That is your right. And we respect your right to do so. All of us shall respect that process. Nonetheless, we hold the view that while this matter is before the courts, we should do everything within government's sustainable possibilities to offer some relief to those workers retiring or who have retired. We are not going to hold back people's money on any technicality. We believe it will be counterproductive to let good be the enemy of perfect. Comrades, with the foregoing said, it is important that we do not allow the most recent industrial impasse between the public sector unions and government over the issue of pension reform to define or characterize our relations. Indeed, it is a welcome sign that unions have returned to the bargaining table. I continue to hold out hope for a positive and fruitful engagement. Sisters and brothers, building and transforming our country into a prosperous and robust social democracy is not an easy task. In the post-February 2013 period, we have successfully stabilized and turned around the national economy, having the most robustly sustained growth of GDP in the region. We have increased public sector workers' income each year between 2016 and 2019 and paid over $110 million in direct monetary benefits. Added to that, government removed personal income taxes on retrenchment and severance pay arising from job loss as a result of redundancy, NIS pension payments, and other pension income for retired workers. In 2017, government reduced the personal income tax from 15% to 10% for workers up to $60,000 per annum. And now in 2019, government went further and has reduced overall income tax by 2% for workers earning over $60,000 annually. Brothers and sisters, government has increased its subvention to the Grenada Trades Union Council by 37.5% since returning to office in 2013. Comrade workers, I don't want my address to be a scholarship or statistical performance, but on the social front, the government of which I am a part has since its return to office completed and distributed over 300 low-income housing units negotiated from the People's Republic of China. We are currently building over 600 units. We have this year alone provided employment for hundreds on an ongoing basis in a number of areas. And we have provided over $40 million in university education for the 2019 academic period. And additionally, we have reduced employment by more than half in the last 5 years. Over 400 more teachers, nurses, and public officers have secured permanent tenure so far in the public service, more than at any other time in the history of this country. 38 projects commenced operations for the year, creating some 540 jobs, a 22% increase compared to 2017. All of the foregoing, comrades, brothers and sisters, equate to an increase in family income for working people. And while none of us shall ever be satisfied, we must acknowledge that real progress is being made and that workers in Grenada are better off today than they were 6 years ago. If we are fair, by any objective measure, this government now in office is the most pro-working class government in the history of the post-revolutionary period. We have also created the enabling environment for the private sector investment and growth while ensuring a significant reduction in income inequality. As we reflect today as workers, the trade union movement must feel proud that it has profoundly shaped Caribbean society and our construct of social democracy. This period requires the building of new alliances, both within and externally. Comrades, before I end, I want to address an issue raised by my friend, the President General of TAU and the President of the TUC. I want it to be known that this government and Prime Minister Mitchell himself will continue to fight for a just settlement of the CLICO issue. That is why when the issue was raised of solving the problems in our courts, an issue raised by several of our citizens. And the rental of the Clico building became a possibility. Prime Minister Mitchell and the cabinet made it abundantly clear that any monies paid for the rental of those units will not be paid to Clico, but will be paid to the judicial manager court-appointed judicial manager as part of the court-mandated process. In other words, brothers and sisters, all the monies paid will be paid to the judicial manager, and it is expected that when these monies are distributed, that the workers of this country and the creditors in general will benefit from that. The fact is, workers here, members of several unions, are well aware of the government's attempts to ensure that the Clico's money are paid and that Grenadian workers benefit. Brothers and sisters, on another issue, the issue of Venezuela. This government has said time and time again, in keeping with its CARICOM position, that we call for dialogue. We call for dialogue as the only means of resolving the problems faced by the Venezuelan people. We stand absolutely against any attempt at exercising a military option in Venezuela. We also reiterate our call for non-intervention by outside forces in Venezuela. As I end, comrades, I want to make what I hope is a profound and significant point, and I want you to hear me out on this. It is something I've had time to reflect on. When I sit across the table as a Minister of Labour, I see children of the working class people who are in a better position than their parents were, and who have more power their parents had to influence and make change. The leadership of your unions has perhaps never been more steeped in working class DNA. Children and grandchildren of the rural peasantry, of hucksters and domestic workers, and farmers and lowly paid public servants. When I sit in cabinet, I see the same. The vast majority of my colleagues are working class children who, through the sacrifice, the blood, sweat and tears of their parents, are working to do better for themselves, are working for their constituents, understanding that they started out from a place of disadvantage. Today, we may sit at different tables, but our histories are the same. And the aspirations for the great-grandchildren of the working class heroes are the same. And even when we debate, and even when we fight, and when we fulfill our different roles in this defining moment of our history, all of us must never lose sight of these undeniable facts I have highlighted. We come from the same place, and we are in this together. And so let hope spring eternal, and may this dream never die. Long live the working people of Grenada, forward ever, backward never.
Okay. That was the Labor Minister on Wednesday at the May Day celebration out there in St. David. Folks, you know, I'm gonna pass on the comments you folks have been making on social media about that address, but please feel free to go on, take a look, go on back, take a look when we publish it on Facebook later on this afternoon. The reason why I'm doing that is because there are some other things that I also want to get to you. So let me scurry right along here.
Are you equipped to take a closer look behind the numbers? The Caribbean Institute of Forensic Accounting can help you build your professional skills to audit and investigate fraud, waste, and abuse. Through the Forensic Certified Public Accountants FCPA program, you gain qualification to conduct forensic audits and investigations globally, earn international recognition and designation as a Forensic Certified Public Accountant from the Forensic CPA Society of the USA. Certificate courses run May to November 2019 in Grenada at the Grenada National Stadium. To register, contact us at info@cfa-edu.com or 868-224-3478.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
All right, so now let's turn to the leader of the labor movement here in Grenada, Mr. Andre Lewis, as he addressed Wednesday's gathering. Okay.
Good day, comrades. Minister for Labour, Minister of Culture, and other senior government officials, members of the Diplomatic Corps, sisters, brothers, comrades all. For a moment when the minister was speaking, I felt that I should have just ripped up the speech and just spend the time responding to him. But I can do that in one paragraph. Comrades, it certainly appears that the minister is surely living in a different world. Yes, he's surely living in a distant world. Could any of you identify with the positives he spoke about? Like he's not a member of this present government. The minister cannot be a member of this present government. All the glowing things he spoke about, pension and gratuity. They ripped up the MOU. They reneged on us. Right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. The day of reckoning is coming, comrades. The day of reckoning is coming. Don't forget that it was on the eve of the election. It was on the eve of the election we signed the MOU. But they do not remember, or they do not realize that we have an election cycle. Comrades, we have heard everything that you said that you have done long before, that you have done 2 years ago. We want to know, what are you doing now? What are your plans for us? You are the best government in recent history. Well, the economic progress that you have made speaks volumes of that, that is true. But that is after that you have put mountains and mountains of taxes on us. You have introduced all types of taxes on us. So obviously, the economy will grow. But at the same time, we see the gap is widening. Poverty has not been seriously addressed. Once again, the minister is asking us to trust in them. Yes, but that can't happen. Comrades, it is important for us not to get sidetracked by all the utterings of the minister. What we know is what he has said is far from the reality. So let us address some issues that we shall take forward. Today, May Day 2019, I bring you warm and fraternal greetings from the Grenada Trades Union Council, the umbrella body charged with the responsibility for defending and advancing the rights of workers in Grenada, for guiding the working class struggles, the vanguard of the working class. Today, May 1st, 2019, is a watershed moment and period for the workers in this country. A period which calls for ever closer working together within the labor movement. We have witnessed the continued efforts by the enemies of the working class to divide and rule the labor movement, but they shall not succeed. In the public sector, May Day 2019 takes place within an industrial climate which is pregnant with mistrust, especially in the public sector. We witness firsthand the government's bold-faced lies and reneging on the issue of pension and gratuity for public officers. The atmosphere is filled with tension and suspicion. We see the government refusing to award pay increases to the so-called contract workers in the public sector. Imagine that when it suits the government, they argue that all public officers sacrificed and therefore all should share in the rewards. But in typical con artist style, they then turn around and refuse to share and reward the contract workers with increases for 2017 to 2019. Oh, what a shame. Oh, what a con artist approach. We see the vindictive and malicious docking of teachers and other public officers' pay. The act of docking the salaries was driven by spite and malice. So don't come and say that you have done the best for workers when you take away public officers' pay just before Christmas. You are the first government and the only government in our memory to have done that. I want to repeat, while the minister boasts about some other world that he's living in, not in Grenada 2018 and 2019, while he boasts about progress, while he boasts about care and concern for workers, they dock workers' pay, they cause workers' children to go with Christmas without gifts, without cake, without all the goodies that come at Christmas, trying to break our spirit and then turn about and talk about that you love working people. The private sector. Some employers in the private sector are bent on following in the footsteps of the government by trying to replace permanent or decent jobs with contract or precarious jobs, all to the detriment of the working class. There is a case of the Grenada Banking Act of 2016. The government had agreed to make the necessary amendments to ensure that financial services workers will not lose the protection under the Employment Act when a business goes insolvent. To date, the amendments are yet to be made. Is this another case of government reneging on its promises to workers? Yes, I agree, because you know what? While they boast about being concerned about workers, over in Antigua, the government has speedily moved to make amendments to the laws to protect banking sector workers. All we hear is about talk and more talk and more talk. That's what we are hearing, comrades, as we speak. As a matter of fact, it is a record of history that when the government of Grenada amended the Banking Act in 2016 to the disadvantage of financial services workers, the Antigua government made the necessary changes. While up to now, 3 years after, the government is yet to make those amendments. We see the Bank of Nova Scotia wanting to treat Grenadian workers as slaves to be sold to the job market. The bank is refusing to abide by the Employment Act and allow the workers to choose whether they want to go over to work with Republic Bank. Scotia wants to sell the workers as though the bank owns them as property. Wider social issues, comrades. Comrades, we see the continuing escalation in the occurrences of child sexual abuse. We see that the society continues to fail the innocent young ones who depends on us for protection. We see the continuing rise in acts of violence, domestic violence, committed against our women folks. At the same time, we witness the failure of the relevant authorities to forcefully address these barbaric acts. Let us all be reminded that these social ills have negative impact on the working class, since the victims or parents of these victims are in most cases workers themselves. The GTUC is also concerned about the level of consumption of alcohol, and more so with underage children. The issue of Clico debacle is still haunting many Grenadians. And I hear Comrade David, after the government listened to the cries of the labor movement, where the government has gone and rent Clico building, has sought to give the assurance that these monies, these taxpayers' monies, will be put aside for working class. We welcome that. But we want to go beyond that. We want to demand that these monies ought not to be given to the receiver. Even if it goes to the receiver, it ought to be placed in a special account earmarked for local Grenadians. So we are taking the government one task further. But you see, we cannot rest assured because we have seen many times they have reneged on their promises. But as I say, we welcome that commitment, and especially your comrades in the seamen. As a sister union, we shall be holding the government accountable to that. The Grenada Trades Union Council once again calls upon the government to amend the Fiscal Responsibility Act to allow the process of free collective bargaining to take place for salary negotiations. Comrades, the signs on industrial horizons are ominous for labor, especially in the public sector. During the struggle for pension and gratuity, we saw the true hands of the government at work. We saw the government forcing open the court to register on a Saturday in order to make and file application for leave to take out an injunction against the workers of this country. Our sister union, the Grenada Public Workers Union, was the documented target. But make no doubt about it, comrades, the real and sinister intent of the government was to use the court to fight against all workers. What was interesting, comrades, is that this is the very first time in our recent history that any government has resorted to those anti-worker, anti-progressive, and backward actions to try and crush the will of the working class. The question that workers must ponder and answer is what or who has changed over the recent years to help bring about this act against organized labor. I want you to ponder on that. It is also, I will whistle. It is also the first time in our struggles that the government, any government to the best of our memories, has moved and docked public sector workers' pay for taking industrial action. In the struggles of '89, under Hubert Blaise, the same one that one of our leaders got rid of, saying that he was bad. Hubert Blaise did not dock public workers' pay. But Dr. Mitchell has created history. This present administration has created history. They have docked public workers' pay. The question is once again, what has changed? Why is the government bent on taking such vindictive and malicious action against workers? The government has behaved more aggressive than the private sector, at least until such time as leading up to the next election. I hope the Prime Minister is taking note, because I know that the workers have taken note. Oil and gas. Comrades, we want to know what is happening to our natural resources, if there is indeed any. Do you remember the pronouncement by the Prime Minister on the eve of the 2018 general election? Sisters and brothers, we found oil! We found oil! And his voice went. His voice went because he said we found oil. Up to this blessed day, comrades, we are yet to know what is happening from our local representatives. Suddenly, the discovery of oil, or the talk of oil in Grenada's territory, has become the biggest national security issue. The biggest national secret. Comrades all, we must remember, we must not forget that there is a history with a certain minister. Yes, I don't want to get bow and then win anything. We must remember the Grenada Postal Corporation saga. We must remember the Gravel and Concrete saga. Any ministry, anything that falls under that minister is shrouded in secrecy, is shrouded in some privacy, and we all know the Prime Minister is afraid to touch that one. National Insurance Scheme. Comrades, the Grenada Trades Union Council recognizes and accepts that serious changes must be made to the National Insurance Scheme in order to ensure its sustainability. We accept that the age of retirement must be addressed. As leaders in the labor movement, we must take the lead on any matter that is of direct interest to workers. Comrades, we have that responsibility. I want to make that point. And as leaders, we must not be reluctant, and we must not be afraid to even confront our own when we are convinced that action is in the best interest tomorrow. That is our responsibility also, right? And we must not shy away from it. Solidarity with Cuba and Venezuela. The Grenada Trades Union Council condemns the continuous imposition of economic sanction against the people and government of Cuba. The rights of the Cuban people must be respected. We salute the invaluable assistance given to us by the selfless people of Cuba. Our comrades from Cuba, we thank you and salute you for your valuable contribution of all the years. Despite your economic hardship, you still help the peoples of this world, the poor peoples of this world, that our neighbors, our bigger neighbors to the north, has not been doing. And it is in this context also, comrades, that we extend our solidarity with the people and government of Venezuela. I want to admit, said again, it is in this context that we unreservedly extend our solidarity. We must not be afraid for our friends who have stood with us. It was Mandela who, on his release, when he was asked to condemn Fidel, who said that in his darkest hours on Robben Island, it was the hands of Fidel and the Cubans who helped fight against apartheid. It was the people of Cuba who dealt the final blow to apartheid. And therefore we must not be afraid to stand up and tell our friends, everyone is our friend, that we will decide who we want to give our solidarity to. Venezuela and the Caribbean must be declared a zone of peace. Comrades in Venezuela, we give you our solidarity. We commit ourselves to you. Comrades, I want you to walk along with me right now. The reneging government. Let's go into this one, the reneging government. This present government has surely been vying. So let's see if they're indeed the reneging government, right? This present government has surely been vying for the title of reneging government. So as leaders, we must not just make statements. We must endeavor to prove our statements. And at the end, you will determine whether or not the crown of the reneging government should go to the current NNP government. The government has reneged on pension and gratuity. The 25% gratuity was agreed upon. That's a fact, and they reneged on it. They reneged on the MOU, signed with the Unions and Staff Association, and yesterday I hear the minister say that they are implementing the MOU. They have reneged on it. As we speak right now, they have reneged on discussion for pension and gratuity for unestablished workers. The MOU called for discussion for pension and gratuity for unestablished workers. And they have reneged on this. They have reneged on the amendments and passing of the new labor code. They have reneged on disclosure on the Grenada oil and gas issue. Remember, we found oil, we found gas. We have not been hearing anything. They have reneged on the amendments to the Grenada Banking Act, something that they promised since 2016. They have reneged on the tablets for school children. You remember that? Comrades, if they have belly to renege on promises to school children, then probably we must not be surprised that they have reneged on us as workers. Think about it. If they have reneged on innocent school children, who would have believed every word that they have said, who would have been looking forward to the tablets, and then for some other reason, some other thing has been done, no tablets has been given. So isn't in this indeed the reneging government as the undertitle? Right. Comrades, the Grenada Trades Union Council renews its demands for pension and gratuity for all public officers and not just parliamentarians. Amendments to Section 66(1), no 67(1) of the Employment Act to replace reasonable time with a specific time. Amendment to the Fiscal Responsibility Act to allow free collective bargaining. An end to contract labor in permanent positions. Salary increases for all contract workers in the public sector. Return of the docked salaries of teachers and public officers. Provision of public transport to take our workers safely home after finishing work late at night. Resolve forcefully and seriously the issue of sexual abuse and domestic violence. Meaningful improvement in the healthcare system. Comrades, our nurses are fleeing from our homeland while the Minister for Health just keep on bobbing his head. You remember when the Prime Minister accused nurses, doctors, and workers in the healthcare system of thieving? The Minister of Health, under whose ministry The workers fall, stand there, and as though they wind them up, and you're just going. In some other country, you'd have done the decent thing and resigned. You know why? Because if your charge is accused of stealing.
Yep, there we go. See what I mean? That's exactly what I referred to when I was telling you earlier on this morning that we were only able to get just a little over 20 minutes of that address. I'm not sure how long Mr. Lewis's address lasted, but on the site that I was able to get the address, only 20 minutes and a couple of seconds was available. Just let me say this before I move on. Folks, while you were listening to those two addresses, I sat back here and read the comments on social media. And I'll tell you, I'm delighted that you have spoken out so vociferously. However, I'm saddened because the comments I see showing up here simply go to show the wide chasm that there is between our government and the people of this country. Disheartening. Now, the last 40 minutes or so have been stressful. I agree. I'm not going to argue with that. Stressful. So I think the best way to wrap it up today is with a little humor. Yeah. We've got some more lighthearted stuff coming your way in just a wee bit.
Are you equipped to take a closer look behind the numbers? The Caribbean Institute of Forensic Accounting can help you build your professional skills to audit and investigate fraud, waste, and abuse. Through the Forensic Certified Public Accountants FCPA program, you gain qualification to conduct forensic audits and investigations globally. Earn international recognition and designation as a Forensic Certified Public Accountant from the Forensic CPA Society of the USA. Certificate courses run May to November 2019 in Grenada at the Grenada National Stadium. To register, contact us at info@cfa-edu.com or 868-224-3478.
Okie doke, folks. Mr. Alan Baczynski was with us again on Thursday morning. Serious stuff he spoke about, but always with a great deal of humor. Check out the next 20 minutes. Roll your sleeves up because this morning this man's going to be talking about mosquitoes. I don't know what the heck mosquitoes have done to him, but he's going to be talking about mosquitoes. Let me take a look and see if he's there. Hey, there he is. There he is. Say good morning, Mr. Baczynski, and how are you, sir?
Good morning. I am well. I have survived mosquito bites.
You have survived mosquito bites, and you're very early this morning. Alan, thank you very much for joining us. I know that you've got other things to do, but you did find the time to be with us, and we do appreciate that. So keep us in suspense no longer, sir. Tell us about these mosquitoes. Are they like the kites that have been flying overhead? Bzzz. Huh?
Well, that is part of it. But, you know, there is a fairly widespread opinion that we need better health services in our nation.
No.
As a matter of fact, the person who currently occupies the ministerial position is well documented as having claimed that we need better health services. But that was before he was elevated to his current exalted position. I don't know if he has forgotten about the need. But nevertheless, as citizens, we need to provide support. And I think that the ministry needs the support of the population with regard to the provision of information. And there are departments within every ministry where the citizen can interact. And so a phone call was made to the Vector Control Unit, which is a department of the Ministry of Health. And the query that was raised went along the lines of, is there a mosquito problem in Monjaloo? And the response that came from the individual who answered the phone was, well, I don't know, I'm not living up there. No. The reality is that perhaps the inquiry might have been better phrased along the lines of, have you had any reports of unusual mosquito infestation in Monjaloo? So I suppose the inquiry, not having been properly phrased, met with the response that I have just reported. But nevertheless, I am sure that there must be many other individuals who have had a similar experience when interacting with government departments, because the individuals who are entrusted with the responsibility of answering phones, the first point of contact between the citizen and the service provider, more often than not, is a person who perhaps has not had the benefit of proper training, has not had the benefit of perhaps a full education. And certainly, it leads to the unfortunate conclusion, and I mean no disrespect, but nevertheless, it leads to the unfortunate conclusion that every time you try to call a government department, it's an Imani who is answering the phone. It's very sad. No. The consequence of further inquiries is that an examination was made by very pleasant, very engaging members of the unit, in contrast to the person who answered the phone, frankly. And we learned some things. One is that, yes, it is the dry season, supposedly, and we all understand that you need to make sure there's no standing water on your premises. But then what became apparent, having established that there's no standing water on my premises or the neighbor's premises, it was then, I don't know if revealed is the correct word, but restated, because I knew it before, that mosquitoes have a range of a radius of about 400 meters. So unless you actually are in a position to do a thorough search of everything within a 400-meter radius, it's very difficult to find the source of your mosquito problem. Now, as I say, the members of the team who came around and inspected did, in fact, find possible source of infestation in a property which is within the 400-meter radius, but has been unoccupied for a period of 3 or 4 months. Prior to that, it was occupied by individuals not of local nationality, and many of them were living in the property. I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that the septic tank was broken. And swarms of mosquitoes breed in unsealed septic tanks. I didn't know this. So I'm sharing this with you and the other viewers and listeners. Please, if you have a septic tank, make sure, and the cover, the lid is above ground. Make sure that during the dry season, when the earth shifts, cracks may develop in the surface of the tank, and you need to plaster the tank. If you are in the fortunate circumstances, as I am, where I actually have grass growing over the lid, then you don't have a problem. so the mosquitoes can't swarm from the septic tank. But you will understand that having discovered perhaps the source or the origin of the infestation, I was even more pleased when the members of the vector control team said that they happened to have some cement with them. And in the absence of the owner or the occupant, they were able to seal the cracks. So we're waiting for 5 to 7 days to see whether there will be a reduction in the infestation. Now, I say 5 to 7 days because naturally, we consider very often mosquitoes to be just a nuisance that we live with until such time as the Minister of Health comes on and says, oh, well, we had chikungunya, now we have to be careful with Zika. But there's some other things, you know. Apart from malaria, yellow fever, West Nile virus, dengue, mosquitoes which are responsible for spreading these diseases. Apparently, mosquitoes kill more people worldwide than any other animal.
Absolutely.
Over 700,000 people die from mosquito-borne infections every year. So it seems to me that we ought to be taking this thing more seriously. And not just waiting for the minister and the ministry. Every now and again, they tell us about Zika and chikungunya. No, we need to be looking at septic tanks. No, this business about mosquitoes, okay, so they're a little pest, fine. But you know, on reflection, when you look at and listen to social media and radio programs, and you hear pests who call in, and they seem to have one common buzz, which is support the unsupportable, defend the indefensible. It doesn't matter what failings are attributed to whatever quarter. They come out from their septic tanks and they start buzzing. Always in support. Always in support. They seem to be unable, absolutely unable, to find anything wrong with anything that is taking place. These bloodsuckers, these mosquitoes, I don't know where we are going to find this septic tank that they're all swarming from and seal it well and permanently.
I bet you're hoping that John here in Carriacou says mosquitoes. He calls them mozzies, by the way. Mosquitoes have a 21-day life cycle, maybe. So you're hoping
that's a female. That's a female, not a male. What happens is that the male lasts from about 5 to 7 days, depending on the species. But what is interesting is that when they start swarming, the females fly into the swarm for mating. And maybe we're seeing some of that as well. These females flying into the swarm.
And I bet you wish that they only had a 21-day or
a
3-day cycle.
A short life cycle,
yeah. Martin Carmichael Simon. Where is Martin? I think Martin is in London. Yeah, Martin's in London, and he says the mosquitoes these days are GM, and I guess I wonder if he's referring to genetically modified.
Yeah, I believe I did see something once that certain intelligence agencies are genetically modifying mosquitoes. I'm sure there's a nefarious purpose. Earlier this week, we saw the entertaining spectacle of the Norwegians retrieving a beluga whale, which had a harness on it, and the conclusion was that the Russians employing whales as military assets.
I see.
So why not mosquitoes?
Mr. B, while you were speaking a little while ago, I was making some notes about some things that you were saying. And you talked about what it's like to, to call the ministry and the sort of response that you get. When you said that, AB, my eyes just lit up because, no, seriously, hold on. Can you imagine calling a ministry? Hi, good morning. May I speak to the minister, please? You want to talk to him? Hell no. I called because I want to blow a kiss to him. Can you imagine a staff member being asked? Now, I have absolutely no proof that this was an Amani, okay? No proof whatsoever. But that's the type of thing one has to put up with these days. And let me ask you this. I'm sure you heard the Minister of Health saying some time ago that he was going to set up a chat forum so that people could comment on the healthcare system. Have you?
I missed that.
Oh, you missed that one. Yeah, well, apparently a promise was made at, I think it might have been a post-cabinet briefing, that he was going to set up this forum, to give the people a chance to vent and let them have their thoughts about the healthcare system. And I haven't seen that yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to share another little story with you. You mentioned the mosquitoes breeding, right? In the septic tanks. And septic tanks create something which we breathe in, okay? Now, a few years ago, Alan, I was admitted to hospital. Actually, this is right after I returned to Grenada 30-something years ago. And I had what's called a pulmonary embolism, which is a blood clot in your lung, and that made it difficult for you to breathe.
Right.
Okay. Well, one of our local newspapers did an article about the fact that George Grant, the manager of Radio Grenada, has been admitted to hospital. And he has a problem breathing.
You're not serious. Breeding?
Yes, Mr. Baczynski. Would I lie to you, sir? Yes, sir.
Well, to quote from, I suppose, all of the local newspapers, I'm at a lost, LOST, to understand what they were getting at.
Yeah. My love life has never recovered since then.
Yeah, well, I can imagine.
Alan, we're in pretty bad shape. Anyhow, but a lot of it is funny, I'm sure, humorous. I mean, you get a chance. It gives you fodder, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if we can't laugh, what would we be doing?
Exactly. Stress. Pele Darbo says, you called to speak, not to talk. I'm not sure what Pele is referring to.
Speak with the minister, I suppose.
Oh. You called to speak, not to talk. Yeah, okay, Pele. Call to speak to the minister. Yeah, that's what Alan.
Though having said that, while you might wish to speak with the minister, I think what the minister really needs is a good talking to.
Will he listen too?
Well, that depends on how busy he is these days.
Okay.
I did see a suggestion that his salary should be docked for every day he's not at work.
Yes, I have seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. All right, Alan. Listen, I know that you're scooting this morning.
Run.
Were you in St. David's yesterday? He has to think about it.
No. I was checking. No, I was in St. David's on Tuesday. So I saw the preparations being made. I assume at the Las Vegas playing field, if that's where it was.
Okay. Have you heard of anything exciting that came out of yesterday's celebrations?
No, I deliberately tuned out.
Oh.
In fact, yesterday I was looking at the other disgraceful spectacle of these mosquitoes swarming out of a septic tank in the U.S. Senate. These Republicans, they defy comprehension, really.
Anyway, you talk about tuning out. That's one of the things I have done. I have to confess, I sort of tuned out of American politics a lot, so I rely on you to come in here and vent on it.
And tell you the latest about the buffoonery.
Yes. Somebody sent me a video over the past week of the president's car and how adept they are, at handling any emergencies the president may encounter as he drives around the city. And when I saw that, I don't know if I sent that video to you, but when I saw that, I thought about you because it's some incredible work. Incredible.
Driving in reverse at high speed.
You saw that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you saw that. Okay, Martin Carmichael Simon here in London is asking whether you guys listened to the Minister of Labor yesterday. No, Martin, I'm going to try and find some time today. I have a very big program coming up later on tonight, but I'm going to try and find some time to watch that today. And Alan, you obviously didn't hear the Minister of Labor yesterday. What I can tell you is that he spoke for about 18 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would assume that, like every Labor Day, there were fireworks. Thanks a lot, Amy. You go do what you have to do.
Bye.
And we'll see you. Take care, man. Mr. Alan Bajinski. Yes, sirree. There he goes. There he goes. All righty. Thank you, Mr. B. See you on Thursday. Folks, that's Alan as he appeared this past Thursday on Good Day Grenada. And for those of you who have not joined us, on Monday mornings we still need to have somebody replace Valerie Thompson on Monday mornings. Valerie was out there in Carriacou, but now she's gone back to Canada. And boy, it was a disaster. She had a hell of a time with her internet provider up there. It was just a disaster every Monday morning, so we had to drop that segment. But on Tuesdays, we're joined by Ray Roberts. On Wednesdays, we're joined by Sharon Roberts Wiltshire. On Thursdays, Bajinski. And on Fridays, by Mr. Brian Pitt. Always very entertaining weekday mornings here on Good Day Grenada. So please, if you haven't yet done so, please join us and spread the word around. That's going to do it, but I do have a parting scripture for you as we pull the curtain down on this, the 5th day of May, 2019. Closing scripture comes to you from the book of Luke. Luke, chapter 6, verses 27 and 28. But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. Short and sweet. Luke chapter 6, 27 and 28. Agatha Jordan just snuck something in here under the wire. She says, yes, George, our internet service in Carriacou is rubbish. Agatha, we know. Girl, Valerie was somebody who had a lot to offer, and it really hurt when we had to pull the plug, but there were just too many complaints about the quality of service we have coming out of Carriacou. Pathetic. What's being done about it? That's it. Ryan says, thank you, George and guests, for a fascinating program. Yeah, folks, that's going to do it for today's edition of Sundays with George Grant. Certainly hope you learned something, that you were also entertained. And by God's grace, I shall see thee tomorrow morning at 9. So long.